welcome to my channel, and today I will be sharing with you all the makeup empties that I was able to finish in 2025. It's a very exciting video for me and I've decided to structure it this way. So first will be introduction, which is now, and secondly you will be seeing overhead shots of all of my makeup products. I've divided them into categories. So for example, firstly I will be talking about setting sprays, then foundations and so on, and after that I will come back here and I will share with you some of the statistics. And I have a spreadsheet with all of the products that I have in my collection, and I count a mini lip gloss as one item, but I also count an eyeshadow palette as one item. So you will be seeing some easier products in this empties video, but also some difficult ones to finish. But I really hope that you will stay with me throughout this whole video and that you will enjoy it. But let's go to overhead shot where I will be showing you all of the empties. So we're starting with my setting spray empties, and I have 5 of them. 4 of them are from Revolution and it was okay for me to use them. The only setting spray that I didn't really like was this one. It's from Beauty Moon Cosmetics and it just made my makeup crease when I applied, after I applied all of my makeup. And usually I use setting spray to kind of melt all of my powders together. But I found a way to use this one in the end. I've used it as a primer spray and it worked quite well, but I didn't really like it. So I was okay with using these two. It's All Day Filter Mattifying Fixing Spray and Ceramide Boost Fixing Spray, but both of them had some kind of residue in them. This one had a powder, I guess, and this one had a shimmer, which wasn't really convenient, so I wouldn't repurchase both of them, but it was really okay to use. They're just not really comfortable and convenient because I had to spend a lot of time shaking them before I applied them to my face. And both of these setting sprays were okay. I don't really know what to say about them because I don't usually use setting sprays to prolong my makeup. I just use them to, well, like I said, melt all of my powders together and that's it. So these setting sprays were okay, and I believe that I repurchased Sport Fix Lasting Hold Fixing Spray, and I thought that somebody was comparing it to All Nighter from Urban Decay. So maybe it prolongs the wear of my makeup, I'm not exactly sure, but at least it's not dewy and it doesn't shorten the wear of my makeup. So I finished 5 setting sprays and it's okay for me. I finished 3 primers in 2025, and for me 2025 was the year when I started being interested in primers, especially the later half of the year. But I quite like this primer from Revolution. It's Bright Light Primer and it worked quite well. It was just brightening primer. It gave my skin quite a nice glow, but it wasn't too glowy, and I really like this type of packaging. This primer from BareMinerals, it didn't do anything, if I'm being honest. At least I haven't noticed any difference with it. It's supposed to be like pore-minimazing primer. It's one of their most popular primers, I guess, but I just don't know if it did anything, to be honest. So I just used it up and I didn't notice anything. And the last primer that I used up was this SPF 30 sunscreen, Untouchable from E.L.F. and technically they say that it's sunscreen, but I wouldn't really count on this sun protection, to be honest. I used it a couple of times as a sunscreen and it was okay, but I used it as a sunscreen relying only on this primer's protection when I knew that I wouldn't spend a lot of time outside that day. It was okay, but it was too glowy for me, and since I used it mostly as a sunscreen, I had to apply quite a lot of it, so I ended up with a really glowy face and I didn't really like it. So I would much rather use a separate sunscreen with SPF 50 and then some kind of glowy primer like this one from Revolution. But 3 empties from primer category is great. Let's talk about foundations now, and I finished 3 of them. I'm really happy with it, but I don't necessarily think that I liked any of these foundations very much. Let's start with this one. Well, first of all of this foundation was the wrong color for me. This one was a little bit too pink from Revolution. This one from Elian Russia was a little bit too dark. It oxidized on my skin, and this one from Lumene also was a little bit too dark. But this one is CC Cream from Lumene. I had the shade 05 Light and it was a little bit too dark, but also the coverage was almost non-existent. They say that it's kind of a medium coverage, but I don't know, it was so sheer, it was almost like a skin tint. I'm not really sure why, and by the way, usually I apply all of my foundation with sponges, so maybe if I applied it with a brush the coverage would be better, but if I applied it with the brush, it was just too dark for me, so I had to sheer it out with the sponge, and maybe because of that it was also kind of a light coverage. Anyway, I didn't like it. I thought that I would love it because for years one of my favorite foundations was like Blur foundation from Lumene. I'm not really sure how it's called now, but anyway, I didn't like it, unfortunately. It was also one of my favorite foundations for years. It's Skilk Obsession Mattifying Foundation from Elian Russia, and I had the shade 12 Cream. Well, I needed to buy my regular shade, which is 1 or 2 shades lighter, I guess. It's quite nice medium coverage mattifying foundation, and that's what I like. I loved using it, but the shade just wasn't right for me, and now I have other foundations that I like just as much or even better. And the last foundation is Conceal&Hydrate foundation from Revolution. I loved it. It had quite a full coverage. It looked really great on my skin, but the shade was just a little bit off. It was too rosy for me, and I found out that my perfect shade from Revolution foundation is F1. So the shade wasn't that great, and also it was a little bit too high coverage for everyday, even for me. I didn't think that I would say it ever, to be honest, but I think for everyday foundation I prefer more of a medium coverage nowadays. But I'm happy with 3 foundation empties, and these 2 basically were brand new. I think I even purchased this one in 2025, but I didn't really have a lot of foundation left in Elian Russia. Let's move on to concealers now, and I have 4 empties. Well, this one is technically a color correcting palette, but in my spreadsheet, in my inventory, I counted it as 1 concealer and 1 powder. It had a lot more color correctors and concealers, but I just decided to count it as one item. So I finished all of these ones up this year, and for me it was a great palette because I got to try a lot of different color correctors, a lot of shades of color correctors, and I found what worked for me. And well, after that I purchased a few color correctors in peachy and pinky shades, and I really like this palette. I'm grateful for it, but of course I wouldn't repurchase it just because I don't need how many 6 different color correctors. They were all different shades. There were like green one, orange one, yellow one, I think, also like peach and pink one, and purple one. Yeah, and right now I just know that I want to use peach or pinky one, and that's it. But I have 3 like typical concealers empty. One of them from Elian Russia. It's Vibrant Skin Concealer. I had the shade 02 Light, and it was a little bit dark for me too. So it was okay. I used it up and I liked the coverage of it. I liked how it looked on my skin, but the shade wasn't great for me. The same goes to this Liquid Camouflage High Coverage Concealer from Catrice. I had the shade 010 and it was dark for me. Well, it wasn't horrible. I think it was kind of my skin tone, but I like more brightening concealers under my eyes. But I really liked the coverage of this concealer, and I think I will repurchase it in a lighter shades in the future. And the last concealer that I just finished by the end of 2025 is HD Concealer from W7. I had the shade Fair Neutral 2, and it was a nice brightening concealer. It had great coverage. It did everything that I want concealer to do. I have quite a lot of veins under my eyes, so usually I use color corrector to correct that, and then I apply concealer to, well, conceal it even more. Nowadays, when I started using color correctors, I noticed that I don't need to use that much concealer, or I don't need that much coverage from concealer, so maybe I would try something else. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. I finished this concealer. It was great. I used it under my eyes and also on my blemishes, and it lasted me for quite some time. So I finished 4 concealers and I'm happy with it. Let's move on to powders, and like I already said, I counted this face palette as 1 concealer and 1 powder because this pen was a yellow powder. I didn't quite like it. It was too yellow for me. I suppose I should have used it under my eyes, but it was just too yellow, so I ended up using it all over my face, and luckily it didn't have a lot of product in it, so I finished it quite quickly, but I didn't like it. Next, let's talk about this powder. It's loose powder from La Masca. It was just a translucent powder and it was okay. I don't have, well, honestly, anything to say about it. It set my makeup quite well. It didn't create any, I don't know, powdery layer on my skin. It looked quite good on me, so it was an okay powder, but it was nothing special, to be honest. The next powder was pressed powder. It was from Revolution. I think it was the Reloaded powder in the shade Translucent. Well, anyway, I finished it. It didn't take me a long time to do so, but I quite liked this powder. It was really a translucent powder. It set my makeup quite well, so it was okay, but also nothing special. The only powder that I fell in love this year is this translucent baking powder from Revolution. It was great. It was blurring my skin, it was mattifying my skin, and it set my makeup quite good as well. I think I really liked that blurring quality of this powder, and I've already repurchased it. So that were all of my powders. I'm quite happy with 4 empties, but I really hope I will be able to finish more powders in 2026. I finished 4 bronzers this year. So first of them comes from this palette from the Balm. It's in the palm of your hand, and you will be seeing a lot of it. But all of these products, except for this highlighter, I finished in 2025. So I finished this Bahama Mama bronzer, and it was quite okay. It wasn't my favorite bronzer. I didn't think it was anything special, but I'm glad that I was able to finish it because it was getting quite old in my collection. The same I can say about this empty pen. It was a bronzer from HD Brows. They had a face palette in some kind of advent calendar a long time ago, and they had a bronzer in it. It was too deep for me, so I ended up frankening it with some highlighters and I don't know, maybe a little bit of powder, I'm not exactly sure, but anyway, I finished it and I didn't really like it because it was too deep, but the frankens that I created from it worked quite well. I finished a liquid bronzer. It's from Made by Mitchell. It's a liquid blusher. I had the shade Shady Business, but it was a bronzer shade for me. It worked quite well, but I usually used it to underpaint because otherwise it was a little bit too patchy on my skin. And the last bronzer that I finished is a cream bronzer from Milk Makeup in the shade Baked. And it was quite a nice cream bronzer, to be honest, but the shade was just a little bit too deep for me. I ended up using it in the summer and it worked quite well in the summer, but I wouldn't want to purchase it again, I think. Because, well, honestly, I prefer powder bronzers and I don't have a lot of liquid bronzers or cream bronzers in my collection right now, and I really hope to finish them in 2026. But I'm quite happy with 4 bronzers empties. I finished 6 blushes this year and I'm very excited about it. So 3 of the blushes come from this palette from the Balm, and I finished all of these 3 blushes. I didn't like this blush in the shade In Stain. It was just a strange formula. If I applied a little bit of it, it wouldn't show up on my face. But if I applied a little bit more, then it would be too much. So it was kind of a hassle to use, and I'm really glad that it's done. But I fell in love with these 2 blushes, so Down Boy and Fred Boy. Down Boy was a mauvey pink blush, well, not really mauve, but it was pink, and it was a great everyday pink for me. I think I found a dupe for it in NYX Buttermelt blush, but if I could, I would buy it again, but unfortunately all of these blushes are discontinued for some reason. And this Fred Boy blush was just a really nice everyday pinky peachy blush. It was just great. I really loved using it, and unfortunately I couldn't find anything quite similar to that. So I'm kind of sad that these 2 blushes are done, but it's okay. I really enjoyed my time with them. So there were 3 powder blushes that I was able to finish this year, and I also finished 3 cream blushes. Well, cream and liquid. Let's start with the liquid blush. It's Blush Bomb from Revolution. I had the shade Cute Pink, I think, and it was a nice blush. I think I finished it in the winter or in the spring, so the color was quite nice that time of the year, but I'm not really a fan of liquid blushes, to be honest. I much prefer cream blushes, but overall I prefer powder blushes, to be honest. It was okay, I'm glad that I finished it. It was just a mini, so it wasn't that difficult to do. The other blush is from Give Them Lala. It's We Don't Know Her cream blush, and it was a nice pink blush, but it wasn't too pigmented, so I had to layer it quite a bit in order for it to show up on my skin. And I usually use cream blushes in combination with powder blushes, because as soon as I set my face with a powder, they kind of disappear, but they help my powder blushes stay longer on my face. Anyway, it was quite a nice blush. I really liked the shade of it, but it wasn't anything special. And the same goes to this Pillow Talk Lip and Cheek Glow from Charlotte Tilbury. It was in the shade Color of Dreams. The shade was beautiful, but it was too balmy for me, and it wasn't really pigmented at all. So I'm happy that I finished it. Honestly, I'm happy that I finished all of my cream blushes and one powder blush, and I will be missing 2 of my powder blushes, but I'm so happy with the amount of blush empties this year. I'm not sure that I will be able to do something like that again in 2026, but I'm glad that I was able to do it in 2025. I finished 6 highlighters, which is kind of crazy, but let's start with this one. It's from Makeup Forever. It is Pro Light Fusion shade, and I think it was in the shade 1. I'm not entirely sure, but I wanted to finish it because, well, first of all, it's not cruelty free. Second of all, it had a lot of progress on it already. It was very old in my collection, but I really liked it. It was a perfect pink highlighter for me, so I used it a lot in its lifetime with me. I think I've had it since 2018 or 2019. It was great. I really loved it, but I'm happy that it's out of my collection. Even so, I don't have quite as nice pink highlighter as this one right now. So the next highlighter that I finished comes from Yves. It's Duo, well, highlighter duo, I think. It was from some of the New Year's collection or like holiday collection, I'm not sure, but anyway, it was a duo highlighter. It had one shade that worked quite well for me as a highlighter. It was this lighter shade, and the other shade was quite dark. So I used it a little bit as a finishing powder. It worked quite well, but I ended up mixing it with the deep bronzer that I was talking about earlier, and I created just my Franken bronzer that was very illuminating for me, and it was a nice color for me. So basically I used this highlighter for Franken purposes, but I finished that Franken up, so I count this highlighter as an empty. The same goes for this highlighter from Revolution and their collab with Shrek. It was just too deep for me, and I used it to Franken. I used a part of it to Franken a different bronzer, but also I used a part of it to create a beautiful blush topper. I really loved it that way, and I'm quite glad that I finished it because the shade wasn't right for me. I also finished 3 cream or liquid highlighters. So the first one is from Milk Makeup. It was in the shade Red. It's just the most popular shade of highlighter. I scraped everything out that I could. It was a really nice pinky cream highlighter. I enjoyed using it, but I'm not a fan of cream or liquid highlighters. I like powder ones better. So I also finished this liquid highlighter from Revolution. I'm not sure. Oh yes, it had a shade. It was Bronzed Glow. It was a little bit too deep for me, but I still managed to make it work. I think I finished it in the beginning of the year, so I don't really remember how I felt about it, but I remember that it was a little bit too deep for me. And the last highlighter is Light Sticks from ColourPop. I had the shade Molten Hot, and it was also a little bit too deep for me, so I used it to underpaint, and that way it worked quite great. It gave my skin quite a nice glow. Anyway, I'm really happy that I finished all of these highlighters. I will miss this one from Makeup Forever, but it's more important for me to move out my non-cruelty-free makeup from my collection. I finished only one eye primer. It was Party Proof eye primer from ColourPop. I had the shade Caramel. I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. It was too... No, I can't show you, but it had a color and it was too dark for me, first of all, but second of all, I feel like it didn't do anything and it even made my makeup crease. In the end, I found a way how to use it. I applied it and then I blended it out with a sponge, which I never do with other eye primers, but yeah, I'm just glad that I finished it and I'm glad that it's out of my collection now. I finished 5 eyeliners. One of them is a liquid and 4 of them are pencil eyeliners. So the liquid one was from Charlotte Tilbury. It was Pillow Talk Crystal Dimensional Eyeliner, and I think it was the shade Rose Gold or something like that, but I'm not a fan of liquid eyeliner, so I ended up using it almost as a liquid eyeshadow, as a topper. And I quite liked it that way, but I wouldn't buy an eyeliner just to use it as a liquid eyeshadow. It doesn't really make sense. So I really liked this retractable eyeliner from Delilah. It was in the shade Coal, I think, but it was a black eyeliner and oh my god, it has... oh no, it doesn't go up now. Anyway, it was just a nice black eyeliner. I use black or dark brown eyeliner in my tight line almost every time I do my makeup. I really like it and that was great. It wasn't transferring anywhere, it just stayed where I put it and I really liked it. I can say the same about this eyeliner from Charlotte Tilbury. It was a duo. It was like a very dark brown shade that I was using in my tight line and it wasn't transferring anywhere as well. And it was a very bright shade that I used in my waterline to brighten up my eyes. It was okay, but I wouldn't purchase it. I prefer using colorful eyeliners on my waterline nowadays, so it was okay. It was just okay. And these 2 eyeliners were dark browns and I ended up using them in my brows because they were transferring a lot when I used them in my tight line. So the first one is from Revolution. I don't know, I think it was called just an eyeliner and it was in dark brown shade. I'm really happy that I ended up finishing it because I just have other brown eyeliners that I can use on my eyes and I prefer using eyeshadows in my brows. And the same goes to this eyeliner. It was from the brand J. I don't know what it is. It was the glitter from my mom, but it was also a brown eyeliner. I also ended up using it in my brows and it worked quite well for that. But I'm happy with 5 eyeliner empties for 2025. I finished 5 liquid and cream eyeshadows and I'm so happy about it. So the first one is from MAC. It's Pro Longwear Paint Pot in the shade Painterly, and I don't know why I opened it, because you can see that it's empty, but basically it was just a nice cream eyeshadow that had pinkish color, and I've been using it as an eye base. It worked okay, but it wasn't my favorite eye base, so it's okay for me that I finished it. And I'm glad that I finished it because MAC is not cruelty free, and I'm trying to have and to buy only cruelty free items. So the next shadow stick is from NYX, is Glam Shadow Stick. I had the shade Divine Amber. It was, I don't know, I'm not sure that you will be able to see anything, but it was a goldy shade. It worked quite well as a base. I didn't quite like it on my eyes because I didn't really like this gold shade, so I usually used it as a base and it worked quite well. The next eyeshadow is this liquid eyeshadow from Revolution, and they collab with Shrek, and it was in the shade Ginger, just like Ginger liquid eyeshadow. It was also gold, but it was a little bit different type of gold, and these types of liquid eyeshadow I can use as a topper on my eyes, and it worked really great. I really liked it. It just gave a little bit of additional sparkle to my look. The next liquid eyeshadow is this Flash Matte liquid eyeshadow from W7, and it was in the shade Everything and Festive. So it's a double-ended liquid eyeshadow, and here we had a matte liquid eyeshadow, and I used it as a base. It was fine. It was just fine, but I prefer eye primers as a base, to be honest, nowadays. And this side was this beautiful liquid eyeshadow. It was really sparkly, and I've used it also as a topper, and I liked it a lot. And the last liquid eyeshadow that I was able to finish in 2025 is this, oh my god, Longwear eyeshadow stick from Lumene. It was the shade 1, and it was something bronze, if I remember correctly, but it was bronzy shade. You won't be able to see anything in there, but it was a really nice bronzy shade, and I loved using it in the winter. I've used this eyeshadow mostly all over my lid, on top of some makeup looks that needed just a little bit more sparkle. I'm really happy with 5 empties, and let's move on to next category. I finished 2 eyeshadow singles. They were from some advent calendar from NYX that I had a long time ago. One of these shades were just a lid setting shade, just like a light cream shade, and the other one was yellowish goldish shade, and I ended up using the second shade up as a nail polish. I mixed it in just a clear nail polish. It worked quite okay, but I don't think that I would do it again. But anyway, I'm really happy with 2 single eyeshadow empties. I kind of finished 4 mascaras. I'm not really sure if I ever will be able to finish a mascara completely, but basically I use them as long as they don't flake on me and as long as they don't irritate my eyes. And I have only 1 mascara open at a time, so basically it happens every 3 months, I guess. So they just dry out in 3 months, which is quite okay because I feel like getting around 90 uses out of a mascara is fine. But anyway, this mascara was from Charlotte Tilbury, is Pillow Talk Push-Up Lashes, and it was in the shade Dream Pop. So it was a burgundy shade. Yeah, I really liked this font. It had small bristles. I feel like I would like to use another mascara with this type of wand, but I'm not really a big fan of colorful mascaras, and this wasn't really noticeable on my lashes, so it wasn't like my lashes were this burgundy color. It was just a little bit different from the black ones. The next mascara is from Elian Russia. It's Russian Doll mascara. I had the shade black, and well, once again it was okay, but I didn't really like this applicator. It was too big for me. I prefer smaller applicators, to be honest. None of these mascaras were anything special. They weren't really great, and I have a very straight lashes, flat straight lashes, I don't know. So I really want mascaras to hold up my curl, and none of them did a very good job. So the next one is Sweet Pro Lash Lift mascara, and I didn't like it. I don't know, I feel like so many people rave about this mascara, and for me it was just something not really comfortable to use. I poke my eyes with this mascara all the time, and you can see that there is still product left in it, but it started flaking on me, and it started flaking in my eyes, so it was just really uncomfortable experience. And after it happened a couple of times in a row, I just decided that it was time to call it an empty. And well, I did it after 3 months of consistent everyday use, so I don't feel bad about it. And my last mascara empty is Small and Mighty Extreme Volume Mascara from Sophia and Mabel. It was also in the shade black, and it was okay, but it also started flaking on me. It has product, but I don't want to walk around with black under eyes. I don't want mascara to be in my eyes, you know, so I'm not really sure. But anyway, I've used it also for 3 months, and that's kind of it. That's all of my mascaras empty for 2025, and I just hope that I will be able to find a better mascaras for me in 2026. But mascaras are not something that I'm very excited about, to be honest. I finished 6 brow products, and 3 of them were like brow gels or just something to set my brows with, and 3 were like color products. So I finished this oatmeal styling soap from Love You, and it wasn't great, to be honest. I don't like these types of products, so I wouldn't repurchase this one or the one from E.L.F. I'm just really glad that it's done, to be honest, and I wanted to try something like this for a long time because it was really popular once upon a time. Maybe it's still quite popular, I'm not exactly sure. I'm glad that I tried it, but I'm really happy that it's finished and that I don't need to use it. The same goes to this brow lift from E.L.F. It was just a clear brow lift, brow gel, brow soap, I'm not exactly sure, but it was really difficult to use. I just don't like it. I don't like the brow gels in this type of packaging. It was better than this styling soap, but it still wasn't comfortable for me. And I also finished this brow gel from Revolution. It was clear, it was okay. It didn't do almost anything, to be honest. It was just fine, it was just there. I'm glad that I finished it. So next I finished this brow pencil from, I think it was from Catrice or from Essence, I'm not exactly sure. Anyway, I will have all of the information down below in my description box as always, but for now I just can't remember. It was in the shade 05. That's the only thing that I can tell you about it, and also I didn't like it. It was quite light, but also I'm not a fan of brow pencils, to be honest. Both of these brow pencils went really quickly. I didn't understand it. So yes, this one was from Essence. It was in the shade 02 and it was okay. I used it up, but I wouldn't repurchase it because I like using powders in my brows nowadays. Maybe it will change, but I just don't see the point in brow pencils, especially since I go through them very quickly. And the last brow product that I finished was from Pore-minimazing, and it was just brow powder. It was quite a nice one, but the shade was too light for me, and this brow powder wasn't really pigmented, so I started just using regular eyeshadows in my brows after I finished that one. Anyway, I'm really happy that all of these products are out of my collection. I didn't really like any of them, so I'm just happy that I finished them up. Let's move on to lip care or lip treatments category, and I have 7 empties. 3 of them is lip oils from Treacle Cosmetics. They all had different scents or shades. They were in the shades coconut, grape and watermelon. I liked all of them. I usually used them before I went to bed to moisturize my lips. They were nice. I wouldn't miss them, but I really liked using them. The other one is this lip balm. It was just a typical lip balm with coconut. It was okay. It was just okay. I finished it in the beginning of the year, so I don't really know what else to say about it. Then we have this lip oil. It's Juicy Pot. Well, they call it lip gloss, but it's more of a lip oil. It's from Revolution, and it was also in the scent coconut. It was nice. I used it the same way as I used my Treacle lip oil, so before I went to bed I applied it and it moisturized my lips throughout the night. So another product from Revolution is this glaze lip oil, and it was also a clear lip oil, and I also used it before I went to bed to moisturize my lips. And the last product in this category is this lip mask with vitamin E from Revolution, and it had a nice pinky shade. I'm not really sure that it has any shade at all, but I've been using it in the morning before I applied my makeup to moisturize my lips. So basically I used all of these products just to treat my lips, just to moisturize them, either in the evening before I went to bed or in the morning before I applied my makeup. I finished quite a few lip glosses, so 6 in total, I guess. 2 of them are from Elian Russia. This one is in the shade Ural Copper, and it was a really nice shimmery lip gloss. I liked it, and I usually used it on top of this matte gloss from Revolution, because otherwise I didn't really like this matte gloss on its own. This formula is quite strange. I had the shade Divine, and I just don't really understand it. It's not a matte lipstick, it's just really a matte lip gloss, but it goes away from your lips quite quickly. It doesn't feel nice, but if you try to remove it yourself, it's really difficult, so it's quite difficult to reapply it. But when I used it with just a regular lip gloss, I quite like this combination. So this one is a lip oil, but I'm not really sure why it's in my lip glosses. Anyway, it was from Elian Russia. I had the shade Lagoon, and it was a little bit of a tinted lip oil, but I used it before I went to bed to moisturize my lips. I really liked this one. I have 3 minis from Revolution here. The first 2 is from their collaboration with Shrek, and I had the shades Farquaad and Charming, and I think I liked Charming better because it was more of a lip oil consistency, even so they both say that it's a lip gloss, and it has quite a sheer nice coverage, but it doesn't go anywhere from your lips, and you can reapply it and it moisturizes your lips, so it was quite a nice one. But I didn't really like this Farquaad lip gloss because it was really thick, and it wasn't really a pleasant feeling on your lips, but also it was this red color, but it didn't stay on my lips at all, even if I used a lip liner with this one. I'm not a fan of lip glosses in general, but this one wasn't good at all. And the last one is this Pout Bomb lip gloss. It was shimmery lip gloss and I fell in love with it. I used it mostly on my trip when I went to see my parents, and it was a really nice one. Especially when I wasn't wearing makeup, for example, I could just apply it to moisturize my lips and it didn't look out of place. Anyway, I'm happy that I finished all of these lip glosses. I will miss these 2, I guess, but it's okay, I have something like that in my collection. But I'm happy with 6 empties. I finished 6 full-size lipsticks in 2025, which is kind of exciting for me. So first of them is, I don't know, it was just a lipstick from Revolution and their collab with Shrek, and it was a nice nudie color, but this lipstick was very balmy, so it went quickly, but also I had to reapply it a lot, and I'm not really a fan of this type of formula, to be honest. I like shiny lipsticks, I like moisturizing lipsticks, but I don't really like this balmy one. And this lipstick from NYX, it's High Voltage lipstick. I had the shade French Kiss. It had the same problem, to be honest. It was, well, pinkish shade. It wasn't my favorite shade, first of all. Second of all, the packaging broke after, I don't know, 1 or 2 uses, and I had to remelt it into different container. But also it had this balmy consistency. I had to reapply it quite often, but also it didn't really moisturize my lips. It kind of went everywhere, so I don't really understand the point of these more balmy lipsticks, to be honest. So the next one I finished was from Clarins, and it was in the shade 760 Pink Cranberry. It was their Jolly Rouge lipsticks. I really like it. I really like the formula of it. It was creamy, it looked kind of shiny on my lips, it even moisturized them, but it didn't go anywhere, and it wasn't that balmy consistency that I don't like. The shade was a little bit out there for me. I prefer either nudes or reds. I don't really like these pinkish shades, but I'm really happy that I was able to finish this lipstick up because Clarins is not cruelty-free, and I'm trying to have a 100% cruelty-free collection. The next lipstick is from Olac. It was in the shade Burnt Rose, and it was a really nice red shade. It was a red with some shimmer in it. I really liked it. I've used it mostly in January of 2025, and then I penned it in November and December, I think. So basically I've been using it in a festive season, and I really liked it. It was great, but I'm happy that I was able to use it up. The next lipstick that I was able to finish comes from Charlotte Tilbury. It's their kissing formula in the shade JK Magic. It was a really nice nude shade. I loved using it. I had a great time with it, and to be honest, I would consider repurchasing this lipstick in this shade in the future. I really like this formula. It was also creamy. It also looked kind of shiny on the lips, but it wasn't this balmy consistency. And kind of the same I can say about this lipstick from E.L.F. It wasn't balmy, but I had to layer it quite a bit in order to receive the color that was in the bullet, if it makes sense. And the last lipstick that I didn't like at all is ColourPop lipsticks in the shade Ziggy. Well, it was quite a nice dark brown shade, but these specific lipsticks or this specific shade was too dry. I even used lip gloss on top of this lipstick in order for it to be kind of manageable on my lips, and I don't usually do it because I don't see the point of it. But this lipstick was just too dry, and other lipsticks don't have this problem, to be honest. They work quite nicely on my lips, so I'm not really sure if this particular lipsticks was just not good or if this shade just comes in a different matte formula. I'm not sure, but I'm happy that I was able to finish 6 lipsticks, and lipsticks are very easy for me to finish because I use them every day and it's just my favorite part of makeup. I finished 6 lip liners. 3 of them are from P. Louise, and I'm not really sure that I will be able to tell you shades, but this one I think options open, and that was the shade of it. It was just a nice everyday nude shade. This one I think was called Caught Out or something like that. It's also completely empty, and it was a more pinky shade, but I also used it almost every day. And the last one is more of a darker shade, brown shade, and it was came to me, I'm not exactly sure. But anyway, I really like this formula of lip liners. They are creamy. I can use them all over my lips without any problems, and that's usually how I apply my lip liner, because I apply them to prolong the wear of my lipstick or to change the color of it a little bit. But anyway, I have this lip liner. It was a red lip liner from NYX, and I just couldn't sharpen it anymore, and it's so tiny that I decided to call it an empty. But I don't remember how it was called, and I think it was kind of a bad lip liner for me because it was breaking on me a lot. So it was a nice shade, but I didn't really like it because it was breaking on me, and formula was also quite nice. So the next lip liner that I don't think I will be able to get out of the packaging, but anyway, it was from BareMinerals. It was in the shade red, but it wasn't really a true red. It was more of a berry color, and I was trying to use it up for ages. It was too dry. It was kind of scratching my lips, and I could use it only if I sharpened it before every use. To be honest, I didn't like it, so I wouldn't repurchase it. It was really dry formula. So the next lip liner is retractable lip liner from E.L.F. It's Glow Glamour Cream Liner. I had the shade 4 Pink Treat, and I really loved it. I really loved the shade of it. It's just this mauvey pinky shade. I would love to buy shades similar to this one, to be honest. But it was creamy. I really like the formula, I really like the shade, but I go through these retractable liners very quickly, so I wouldn't repurchase this one or any other retractable lip liner. So the last lip liner is Velvet Lip Liner from Seattle, London. I had the shade Cocoa and it was a retractable one. It had this nice cool tone brown shade. I quite liked it for an everyday look, and it was a nice lip liner, but it was just a little bit too dry for me. I still quite enjoyed using it. I was bringing it with me when I was traveling because I didn't want to bring my sharpener, but it was a nice one. I quite enjoyed it. But I'm happy with 6 empties and I hope I will finish at least the same amount in 2026. And the last category of these empties is my eyeshadow palettes. I kind of finished 4 of them, but I don't know, maybe it's kind of cheating. So this palette that I was talking about earlier had 4 shadows that I ended up frankening and using for my face. So some of these eyeshadows I used as a bronzer, some of them I used as a blush. I think one of them I used as a blush topper. I'm not exactly sure, but anyway, I finished all of these 4 shadows on my face. But I finished them this year, so I count them as empties, of course. My Panzette palette, my main Panzette palette for 2025 that I ended up finishing on my eyes is this Naked palette from Urban Decay. I loved finishing it. I'm not necessarily in love with this formula. I didn't really love the color story. It was okay for everyday use and it was okay to use, but I'm just glad that I was able to finish this big eyeshadow palette in a year. It wasn't brand new, none of these palettes were brand new by any means, but I'm still proud of myself for finishing this whole palette on my eyes. So the same goes to this Venus Excess palette from Lime Crime. It was also in my Panzette palette and it was just a quad, but I finished it all on my eyes. It was really nice quad. I really loved it. It had 4 pinky shades and it was one of my favorite palettes in my whole collection for a long time. And the last palette is this palette from Lin & Lo. It was a declutter from my mom, and it had only 3 shades. 2 of them were lid setting shades for me and the 3rd one was a brow shade. So I don't really count it as a palette in my mind, but it's still an empty. It had quite a lot of use when I received it from my mom, but it didn't have any pens in it and I still used each shade quite a bit in order to finish it. But it wasn't colorful palette, it was more like a brow palette, I think. Well, anyway, I counted it as an eyeshadow palette in my inventory, so I'm showing it to you now. But that was the last category of my empties, so let's go back to my face. So that was it for my empties, and now let's talk about statistics. So I finished 19 base products this year, and when I'm talking about base products, I mean setting sprays, face primers, powders, foundations, concealers. So I finished 19 of those products. Next up, cheek products. I finished 16 of them and I'm really proud of it. I include in cheek products highlighters, bronzers and blushes, and I feel like it was a great year of finishing cheek products for me. Next up, eye products, and I finished 10 of those, and in eye products I included eyeliners, eye primers and mascaras. I finished 6 brow products, so brow pencils, brow gels, brow powders, all of this stuff. I finished 26 lip products. Wow, that's extremely good. Of course, a lot of them were minis, especially lip glosses and lip oils, I feel like were minis, but that's okay. I still finished 26 of them. And of course, in lip products I include lip liners, lipsticks, lip glosses and lip treatments, lip care category. And I finished 32 eyeshadows this year, which is so exciting for me. From these 32 eyeshadows, 5 were liquids or creams and 27 were powder eyeshadows, so they were either single ones or a single pen in a palette, which is really exciting. I'm really proud of myself, and I don't think that I ever could finish that much eyeshadow in a year. But in total, without eyeshadows, I finished 77 makeup products, and if we include single and liquid eyeshadows, this number will jump to 84. And I don't count every single pen in my palettes as a separate product in my inventory in my spreadsheet. So basically I will count only something that I call in my spreadsheet eyeshadow palette. It can be a small one, it can be a palette with a combination of eyeshadow and face products. I usually count these palettes in my inventory as separate, so it will be eyeshadow palette, but it also will be one blush, one bronzer, one highlighter, and so on. And as an example of this face palette will be the palette from the Balm that I was showing you earlier. But basically the total number of my finished products will reflect only completely finished eyeshadow palettes, for example. So I finished a couple of shades in my Smashbox palette, and they don't count towards this total number of empties this year. I hope it all makes sense, but my grand total number of empties this year is 88. I'm really happy about it. I'm really happy. I want to aim towards 100 empties next year, but I'm sure that it won't be possible. I had a lot of minis in my collection in 2025, and I was really concentrating on them. I was trying to finish them, and now at this point I don't really have that many minis in my collection. So I feel like I will finish less products in 2026, but they will be bigger size products, if it makes sense. And also I was finishing a lot of smaller blushes, a lot of smaller bronzers, and this year I'm working on a bronzer that has 10 grams of product, for example, which is quite a lot. So if I finish less products in 2026, I will be okay with it. But I will be aiming to finish at least the same amount of products next year, of course. But we will see how it goes. I'm very happy with the amount of empties that I got this year. I feel like I did really great. And by the way, I'm wearing a full face of makeup almost every day, so that's also something that you need to consider. But I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a like, leave a comment, subscribe, and I hope you will stay with me on my project painting journey. Thank you again so much for watching this video, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!